Well, that's a really good question. But before we answer it, I just want to say Ask a Priest Live gives you direct access to faithful Catholic priests who answer your questions every single day. And because we're 100% listener funded, that line stays open. Consider supporting us at thestationofthecross.com. This one's really interesting. Are we being desensitized to evil? You know, there's things like that we use for communication. Like if you're playing a video game, the website's called Discord. Like that's not a good thing. That's kind of an evil thing, Discord, you know? Discord is not a good thing. But Andrew in Amherst, and there's lots of examples of this, by the way. Andrew in Amherst, New York, he's starting to notice these things. He says, do you think that there's been an increase in evil and demonic imagery being normalized? I'm referring to things like last year's Labubu trend, fandoms of serial killers and slasher movies, media making demons sympathetic. It's really been bothering me lately, and I feel like it's pervasive. I don't think any of these things hold power, but I'm wondering if it's building a broad acceptance of the demonic.
Yeah, Andrew, I think that's a really good question. I think it's a really good point. I have to say, yes, there definitely has been overall, in a broad sense, certainly a desensitization to evil has taken place in our society. It begins with simple things like a modest dress, which is increasingly become more and more worse. I think Our Lady of Fatima said to the children that trends of fashion would come that are greatly offensive to the heart of her son, and we certainly have seen that come true. But yeah, also the acceptance of evil. I remember one time when I was a young guy, because I'm a child of the 80s and 90s. And I remember one priest talking about how, isn't it terrible that when a young person sees something they like, they use the exclamation "wicked." And I never thought about that, but I'm like, yeah, there is something to be said. Like we're actually calling something evil when it's something that we like. Like what's happening there? And we see that all the time with like demon words being used nonchalantly. A lot of shows like trying to have hot takes. Well, what if the demons are right? What if the demons aren't really so bad after all? That's definitely desensitizing us to these things. And so as Christians, I think we always have to be on guard. Do I think it's getting worse? If I'm honest, I have to say yes. But of course, we always tend to say, right, o tempus, o mora, oh the times, oh the customs. And when reality, there's perversive evil in every generation, but we as Christians have to constantly be on guard against that, constantly be aware of it, and maybe say, you know what, no Labubu in our house, or other things like that. I mean, some of the stuff, the violence, I think the serial killer fascination. I think that you're right on with that, Andrew. That's becoming a really serious. Like people are becoming fascinated with this stuff in a way that certainly is not healthy. And it's like we're normalizing this violence. People have been talking for years about slasher movies and video games, and all that stuff's always out there, and all kinds of movies. So I just think as Christians we have to increasingly beware. Do I respect the dignity and value of the human person? And am I aware that there is a preternatural power that is constantly trying to corrupt and to ruin my soul? And so as Christians, we always have to be on guard, and we always have to be considering these things.
Yeah, 100%. I bought a fishing pole the other day, and it was called a dock demon. And I thought, man, it's like in the right price point. I guess I'll buy it. But first thing I did is I took some acetone. I removed that. It's like, I don't want, like, what does a demon have anything to do with catching fish? If anything, it should have Christian themes, right? Because our Lord said, go.
That's right.
There's a lot of stories about fishermen in the Bible, right? So
let down your nets, right? Jesus is the one that was about catching fish. Yeah, dude. And I think we really have to be aware of that and think about how we use those words, how we use those terms, how we use things like demon and evil and devil, and be very careful. And I think Andrew puts in there. I think what would you say? I don't think these things hold any power. I think it's important to say that. Yeah, I mean well, first of all, evil only has as much power over it as we allow over it, because we have been baptized, redeemed by God's grace, and live in a state of sanctifying grace. Have nothing to fear from the evil one. But at the same time, we should be aware, like, are there ways that I'm opening doors? Are there ways that I'm slowly letting evil into my life? Are there ways that I'm being desensitized? I live in the great and free state of Florida. And about this time of year, we have these really obnoxious things called love bugs that put little splats on our windshield. And I often talk about sin. You know, this is something that venial sin does to us. Like, you know, you're driving along and you get one little bug on the windshield. It's not really a big deal. But, you know, when you're driving across the state, like I did this week, all of a sudden you get all these splats on the window. And if you don't pull over and wash off all that goo, you're going to really miss when something huge gets in your way. You know, when a deer jumps in front of you or another car stops short. If you're not careful and you allow yourself to be desensitized, you can be caught off guard by the evil one real quick. And frankly, I think that's all part of the scheme. So good for Andrew for opening your eyes and being able to see that and realize what's going on. And good for you, Rudy, to say, you know what, I'm not going to have something with this name on it in my house. Just out of principle alone. It's not like you believe. I'm sure you don't believe that your fishing rod was possessed, but nonetheless, like, just out of principle, I'm just not going to have this garbage in my home. You know, as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord and stand in that spiritual authority as father and husband, as authority over your house. I think that's a great take, a great awareness on the part of Andrew, a great action on your part, Rudy. And I think more of us should be aware and be able to do those things, to recognize the evil one is real and he is at work.
But you know what, Father? I mean, since you were born in the 80s, you might remember, you know, this desensitization that we've had to this has been happening for a long time, because in the 80s, Absolutely. They had a satanic panic, and they would, you know, downplay, like, no, it's not real. It's not real, guys. It's not real. You remember that?
Oh, yeah. Well, actually, I was born in the 70s. I was born in 1979. I'm an old man. And I think, you know, you had all the, you know, think about all the dark, you know, metal bands and everyone would say, oh, this person's actually a devout Christian. They're just posing. What's that saying if they're posing and using satanic names and satanic songs just to get attention? Does that really make it any better? And you know, you have to be careful. At the same time, I think you can also, you know, go around giving the devil too much power and too much credit too. And I think we have to be careful about that. But at the same time, it's okay to sit back and say, you know, no, I'm not gonna take this crap. I'm not gonna take this stuff into my house. I'm not gonna give the evil one any unspoken power or authority over anything I'm doing.